Hey loves, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be my eyeshadow palette. I figured I would come and share with you some of the palettes that I have in my collection. So I have them all right here, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. The first two palettes that I'm going to show you are from MAC. So this is my first MAC palette that I have, and a lot of these shades that's within this palette are just what I use to transition colors onto my lid, such as Saddle, Embark, Brown Script, Swiss Chocolate. They contain a lot of just transitional shades. I did pick up the individual pans, bought the palette, bought the inserts, and just put my eyeshadows in the palette. So the next palette that I have is from MAC, but this palette contains all of my Makeup Geek eyeshadows. Initially, when I got this palette, I only had 2 MAC shadows to start off with, but I had more of the Makeup Geek eyeshadows, so all I did was just put all of my Makeup Geek eyeshadows within this MAC palette. But I absolutely love Makeup Geek, so this is going to be my second eyeshadow palette. The next palette that I'm going to show you is from Urban Decay, and it's their Urban Decay Naked 1 palette. I was really late in jumping on the bandwagon when getting this palette. This palette has been out for quite a few years now, and I'm just now getting mine, I think sometime last year. Unfortunately, I do not use this palette as much as I would like to. I don't know what it is about this palette. The only reason why I did pick up this palette was because it was Urban Decay's original #1 palette, and then also the tones of the shades. Now when I picked up this palette, the Urban Decay 2 palette was out, but I was more pulled to the warm tones in this palette, so this is the reason why I picked up this palette versus the Urban Decay Naked 2. But eventually I will start playing with it one day, but it's just definitely not a palette that I reached for. The next palette that I have is going to be my favorite palette, at least one of my favorite palettes, and it's the LORAC Pro palette. I did pick this palette up sometime last year as well. Love this palette. This palette is more so on the neutral side with it's more neutral. I love this palette. This palette is all that I need to create a neutral look, if that's what I'm going for. It contains about 16 eyeshadows, 8 mattes, and 8 shimmer satins. I really love the versatility in this palette. This is definitely going to be one of my holy grail palettes. I just love this palette. I love the eyeshadows. I love the creaminess of the eyeshadows. The only downfall to this palette is that it does kick up a lot of fallout. So when I'm using this palette in particular, I like to do my eye makeup and then continue on with my face. But as far as this palette is concerned, I absolutely love this palette. I love this palette for so many different reasons. One is because they offer transitional shades. I love that about this palette. And two, I love how you can go from day to night with this palette. So definitely a universal palette. You could do as many looks that you would like within this palette. So this is my LORAC Pro palette. The next palette is my favorite palette out of all of the palettes that I have, and you guessed it. It is going to be the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette. I absolutely love this palette, everything about this palette. When this palette initially launched, the struggle was oh so real because I tried to get my hands on this palette, but eventually, you know, you're gonna get what you want. So I definitely love this palette. This is more so of a neutral palette as well, but it does have a pop of colors, which is a good thing. The best thing about this palette is that it offers transitional shades. I am really big on transitional shades when I am looking at a palette. I love the pigmentation of these eyeshadows. They are really creamy, no fallout, nothing bad to say about this palette. So this is the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette. So I have 3 palettes from BH Cosmetics. And the first palette that I'm going to show is the Eyes on the 80s palette. I made an order, I think the earlier part of this year with BH Cosmetics, and you spend a certain amount of dollars and you get something free and things of that nature. So I did pick up this palette. It was only right. I am an 80s baby, so I figured that I would just, you know, pay homage to the 80s. So this is one of my BH Cosmetics palettes. Then the next palette that I have, well, the next 2 palettes that I have are palettes that I actually stalked the website. So the next palette is going to be the BH Cosmetics Party Girl palette, one of my favorite palettes. Look at those colors. I absolutely fell in love with the colors in this eyeshadow palette. Very pigmented, very creamy. They are about maybe a dime size. I just love this palette because I love the versatility. I just love how you could go from day to night just like that, all in one palette. Unfortunately, this palette doesn't offer transitional shades, so you are going to have to dig into another palette to get some transitional shades, but that is okay because I love this palette. Then my last palette is going to be my BH Day and Night palette. This is a 60 color eyeshadow palette. This was another palette when it released. The struggle was real in trying to get this palette and order it offline. But for me, if I want it, I'm going to get it, and I'm not going to stop till I get it. So yes, I fell in love with this palette as well. I just love the range of colors. Now with this particular palette, it's day and night, where you can complete a daytime look, you know, work or school appropriate, and you can switch it up and, you know, make a dark vampy nighttime look, smoke it on out, and you are good to go. I absolutely love the versatility of this palette as well. Pigmentation, you know, BH Cosmetics never fails with their pigmentation, so I definitely love this palette as well. That's it, loves. Those are all of my palettes within my collection. Definitely let me know what you think. I am getting a few questions about some makeup tutorials, so let me be the first to say that I am not a makeup artist, nor do I aspire to be a makeup artist. I'm just a girly girl that just loves makeup, more so an enthusiast. But I do plan on featuring some makeup tutorials on my channel. I'm just not as confident within myself to just come out with makeup tutorials, but as I practice and I learn how to do eyeshadow looks, then yes, most definitely I will eventually start making some makeup tutorials. So yes, loves, that is going to be it for this video. Definitely let me know what you think down below. I love interacting with y'all. So that's it. Don't forget to thumbs me up if you enjoyed this video. And yes, loves, until my next video, I will see you later. Bye, loves.